Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens podcast, sponsored by Jotnick's Paranormal. My name's Chad Thomas, and that other guy is Jamie Widener. He's always here with me on Tuesday nights. So how you doing tonight, Jamie?
Sir, I'm fantastic. What could be wrong? It's Tuesday night. Here we are. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? What's going on?
Busy, still busy at work, which is good. Happy about that. We had an investigation. We all were back together again on Saturday night.
We got the band back together. That's right.
And not only did we get the band back together, but the some of the other guys who are good friends were there as well, and it was nice to see Frankie and Todd and Carmela and all and their team and work with
Meet
them
some new
for
friends. Yep. Make some new ones. Right.
Yep. So we had a professor from Penn State who was coming over and talking to us. Yeah, it was a great night. It was.
Well, it struck me afterwards, and you don't always have time to reflect in the moment, but as I was driving home, and even Sunday afternoon, I was at another event. There was a really good mix of people who have been there and done this,
Mm-hmm.
and then a lot of newbies who, one fellow in particular, didn't know he was doing this tonight, that night. You know what I mean? But everybody was engaged and involved and happening, and it's just that kind of moment, makes it all worthwhile. No matter what your day looked like, however tired you might be, there's just good energy in the room. And Frankie, there you are. Thank you. And phenomenal night is absolutely right. And that's the fun part of it, and it makes it all worthwhile, and the long wait too. Like, we have not been to our site in 3 months. I think it was, October was our last date. And then, December kind of got postponed, and then January didn't happen because of the beginning of the calendar.
Right.
February got canceled because of something, weather probably, I forget, but here we are. And
Right.
no, that's just February. What am I thinking? January got canceled. So it's just,
Yeah.
where am I?
Yeah.
What month is this? It's so great to get back and then kick off in such a grand fashion with all these great people. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to have everybody.
And we have Todd and Carmela here, so hope the head cold gets better. There's
Oh yeah, everybody's got one these days. That's for sure.
So yeah. So and then we in another couple of weeks we're going to be there again, doing it one more time, and looking forward to that too. So
one time at a time.
Exactly.
Oh, there's a great comment too from Todd and Carmela. Carmela says she wants to go be behind the bar again. For those who don't know, our home base, or we get to investigate regularly, is Booby's Brewery in Mount Joy, PA. And the original bar from the establishment is still there. And it was a gentleman's bar back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Women were not permitted to be in the space. And Carmela took full advantage this weekend, getting behind the bar and being a bartender. So,
did it?
I'm sure it held some a little bit.
I was going to say,
I haven't had time to review everything, so maybe there's a good capture in there of that. But certainly good. She did great, by the way. So
good. Glad to hear that. So
could be a side hustle going forward. Who knows? Paranormal bartender. Like it.
Cool. So, well, are you ready to jump into tonight's topic?
Yeah. What is this topic?
We're going to talk about Rendlesham Forest Incident. Okay. So this is well, let's start off here. I'd venture to say that the majority of our episodes take us back to the distant past, or at least before our lifetimes, right?
Many, sure.
Yeah. So this one is a little different. Tonight we're looking at the days following Christmas of 1980.
Ooh.
So just to refresh your memory on what was happening in December of 1980, Iran was holding 52 American hostages.
Yep.
John Lennon was killed on December 8th. Magnum PI premiered on December 11th. Ronald Reagan was preparing to become president of the United States. Both the USSR and Great Britain were conducting nuclear tests. The movie 9 to 5 was released, starring Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda, and Lily Tomlin. The Wonderful World of Disney, which we've talked about before, had its last performance on December 30th.
Chad, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your audio's gotten a little shaky there.
Oh, really? I'll
Yeah,
try to
that's better.
get a little closer here.
Yeah.
Um,
Come closer to the
so,
microphone.
Wonderful World of Disney had its last performance on December 30th, and the space shuttle STS-1 moved from the Vehicle Assembly Building to the Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center.
Wow.
Now, these were all pretty significant events, and you probably remember most, if not all of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Of
So,
course. I was alive and
yeah.
well.
So, I mean, I know how old I was. You were a couple years older. So, yeah,
Hey,
I
hey,
said a couple of
hey.
years. So now, since we can easily recall these things from December of 1980, I'm sure you also remember one of the most significant alleged UFO sightings of that time, right?
No.
You don't? All right. The Rendlesham Forest Incident took place between December 26th and December 28th. Now, I have to admit, I hadn't heard of it until I started researching paranormal topics. But apparently, this is one of the most famous alleged UFO events in the UK and one of the top UFO cases worldwide. It has been referred to as Britain's Roswell, drawing comparisons to the infamous Roswell UFO incident. So, tonight we're going to examine the facts, theories, and ongoing debate surrounding the Rendlesham Forest incident.
Yeah.
All right, Rendlesham Forest is located in Suffolk, England, the same area we talked about when discussing the Green Children of Woolpit a couple weeks ago. Near this forest are two Air Force bases, RAF Woodbridge and RAF Bentwaters. RAF Woodbridge, located just south of the forest, is where most of the event was documented. This base was used by the United States Air Force from 1952 to 1993 during the Cold War. It was built originally in 1943 as one of three emergency landing group bases along Britain's eastern coast. RAF Woodbridge was a crucial site for damaged aircraft returning from missions over Germany. A portion of the runway was set aside for emergency landings that didn't require radio clearance. So if they couldn't communicate, there was still a safe place for them to land. The site was chosen for its nearly fog-free conditions and miles of unobstructed land, though that required clearing millions of trees from the Rendlesham Forest. The first aircraft to land there was an American B-17 returning from a mission on July of 1943. So, jumping ahead to December 26, 1980, just after midnight, radar screens and airmen detected an unidentified object vanishing into the forest. Eyewitnesses reported seeing strange lights descending into the trees. Initially believing it to be a crashed aircraft, a team was dispatched to investigate. Now, two of these team members were John Burroughs and Jim Peniston. These two soldiers located and came upon what they described as a luminous, metal, triangular-shaped craft. The object was reported to be about 10 feet across, 8 feet high, resting on three legs. Peniston later claimed that when he touched the craft, it was warm to the touch and covered in a strange hieroglyphic-like markings. Sometime after his initial debriefing, he reported receiving a telepathic binary code message upon contacting the object. Now, according to one account, the craft eventually retracted its landing gears and maneuvered through the trees. The men followed it on foot into a field where it suddenly shot up into the sky, casting bright lights down upon them. The men believed they lost consciousness and later found themselves back in the forest when they came to. At around 4 a.m., local police arrived at the scene, but the only lights that they saw were from the Orford Nest Lighthouse, located a few miles away. With no immediate evidence of a crash, the search was suspended until daylight. On the morning of December 26th, servicemen were sent into the forest, where they discovered three depressions in the ground forming a triangular pattern, as well as broken branches and burn marks on trees. Local police were again called at 10:30 a.m., but dismissed the impressions as likely caused by an animal. At this point, the investigation more or less stalled. There was no crash site, no bird debris, and no physical evidence of a vehicle. Then on the afternoon of December 27th, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy base commander at RAF Bentwaters, decided to take a team of U.S. Air Force military policemen into Rendlesham Forest to conduct a more thorough investigation. Now, this effort continued until the early hours of December 28th. To properly document their findings, Halt's team carried a Geiger counter, a starlight scope, which we would call a night vision device, and a microtape recorder. What they allegedly saw that night has intrigued investigators ever since. The investigation officially continued until January 13th, 1981, when Lieutenant Colonel Halt filed a memorandum summarizing the events. This report, now known as the Halt Memo, was sent to the UK Ministry of Defense. Now, I'll post copies of it on the Paranormal Lens podcast Facebook page, which we'll get to later. But here's some. I'm going to read the document here. It was from the Department of the Air Force to the UK's Ministry of Defense. Subject: unexplained lights. Early in the morning of 27 December 80, approximately 0300 local time, two United States Air Force security police patrolmen saw unusual lights outside the back gate at RAF Woodbridge. Thinking an aircraft might have crashed or been forced down, they called for permission to go outside the gate to investigate. The on-duty flight chief responded and allowed 3 patrolmen to proceed on foot. The individuals reported seeing a strange glowing object in the forest. The object was described as being metallic in appearance and triangular in shape, approximately 2 to 3 meters across the base and approximately 2 meters high. It illuminated the entire forest with a white light. The object itself had a pulsing red light on the top and banks of blue lights underneath. The object was hovering or on legs. As the patrolman approached the object, it maneuvered through the trees and disappeared. So here's our first contradiction. At this time, the animals on a nearby farm went into a frenzy. The object was briefly sighted approximately an hour later near the back gate. The next day, 3 depressions, 1.5 inches deep and 7 inches in diameter, were found where the object had been sighted on the ground. The following night, 29 December 80, here's another discrepancy. The area was checked for radiation. Beta gamma readings of 0.01, and I'm not going to try to pronounce this word, were recorded with peak readings in the 3 depressions and near the center of the triangle formed by the depressions. A nearby tree had moderate 0.05 to 0.07 readings on the side of the tree towards the depressions. Later in the night, a red sunlight light was seen through the trees. It moved about and pulsed. At one point, it appeared to throw off glowing particles and then broke into 5 separate white objects and then disappeared. Immediately thereafter, 3 star-like objects were noticed in the sky, 2 objects to the north and 1 to the south, all of which were about 10 degrees off the horizon. The objects moved rapidly in sharp angular movements and displayed red, green, and blue lights. The objects to the north appeared to be elliptical through an 8 to 12 power lens. They then turned to full circles. The objects to the north remained in the sky for an hour or more. The objects to the south were visible for 2 to 3 hours and beamed down a stream of light from time to time. Numerous individuals, including the undersigned, witnessed the activities in paragraphs 2 and 3. It was signed Charles I. Halt, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force, Deputy Base Commander. So now this is somebody who's pretty high up on the base if he's the Deputy Base Commander. So now, earlier I said that the team carried a microtape recorder with them. We're familiar with carrying these types of devices. Halt wanted to document the mission and recorded what was happening. So I was able to find part of that recording. I downloaded it, I cleaned it up, and I pulled a few segments out. The total length of the file was about 18 minutes. It's interesting to hear what was going on. The recording started out with the team requesting a new light awl, which would have been a portable light tower because the one they had with them was not functioning. Don't know why, but it wasn't functioning. Now, the first section I want to play with for you is the team using a Geiger counter. So let me get that pulled up and we'll give it a listen. Here we go.
We find a small blast, what looks like a blasted or scrubbed up area here. We get very positive readings. See, is that here the center? Yes, it is. This is what we would assume would be the dead center. Just picking up more as you go along the whole area here now. Up to 7/10. Or seven units, let's call it, on the 0.5 scale. Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we make a sweep? Here, I've got my gloves on now. Let's make a sweep out around the whole area, about 10 foot out, and make a perimeter run around it. Starting right back here at the corner. Back at the same first corner where we came in. Let's go right back here. Don't let depend upon you count the clicks. Okay, let's start it as it gets louder. Then I can put the light on it and sweep around it. It would fly. Put it on the ground every once in a while. This looks like an abrasion on it. Okay, we'll catch that on the way back. Let's go around. One light, get it there. And then the interest right over here, it looks like an abrasion pointing into the center. It is. It may be old, though. There's some scent marks or something on it. Let's go on back around. All right. So it gives some extension. Yeah, this is an awkward thing to use, isn't it?
So it's, I like his comment there at the end.
Exactly.
So, you sort of, it's sort of cool to hear this because you feel like you're there. Now, there was a lot of background noise, there were radio cutting in and out because they were, police or military frequencies and all that stuff. But it's just sort of interesting. You can tell that this guy was a take charge, sort of like, this is how we're going to run it. This is what, you're going to listen to. So I find this sort of evidence really interesting to have available. Now, the records show that the technician using the Geiger counter was named Sergeant Monroe Nevels, who was a chemical defense instructor in disaster preparedness, and he was not a nuclear specialist. So his unfamiliarity with the equipment is apparent here and even more later in the recording. Now, the other voice we heard belongs to Bruce England, who was guiding Halt around the site. From here, they continue to explore the site, take pictures and samples, make sketches, and make notes. These samples included sap that was pointing inward towards the center of the landing zone. They documented broken branches and gouges or strange scars in the trees. They also photographed the impressions in the soil, as well as the Geiger counter readings. I would say they had quite a bit of evidence. So the next three clips I'm going to play are from a little bit later in the evening, and it's the first one starts when somebody spots something in the sky. So we'll play through them, and I'll pause between each one, and we can talk a little bit.
Yeah, for the pigmentation. You just saw a light where? Where? Right in this position here, straight ahead, in between the tree. There it is again. Watch, straight ahead off my flash right there. So there it is. Hey, I see it too. What is it? We don't know, sir. So can I get some of it? Yeah, it's a strange, small red light. Looks to be out maybe a quarter to half mile, maybe further out. I'm going to switch off. The light is gone now. It was approximately 120 degrees from the site. Yeah. Is it back again? Yes, sir. Oh, that's the flashlight set. Let's move out to the edge of the clearing so we can get a better look at it. See if you can get the star scope on it. The light's still there, and all the barnyard animals have gotten quiet now. Yeah, we're heading about 110 to 120 degrees from the site out through to the clearing now. Still getting a reading on the meter. About 2 clicks. Meter's jumped 3 to 4 clicks, getting stronger.
So they, they've definitely spotted something. Don't know what it is, but they continue following it and watching it. We're going to jump to this next clip.
There's no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light ahead. It's yellow. I saw a yellow tinge in it too. Weird. It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. It's brighter than it has been. Yellow. It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way. Pieces of it are shooting off. There is no doubt about it. This is weird. To the left. Yeah, definitely moving left. Two lights. One light to the front, okay. One light to the left. Keep the flashlights off. There's something very, very strange. Get the headset on. See if it gets any stronger. Okay. Give us a rundown. Notation that this is on a beta reading, too. It's on a beta reading? Okay. It still has been removed. Okay. Pieces were falling off it again.
It just moved to the right.
Yeah.
Dropped to the right.
Strange.
Strange, Jamie.
Apparently it's strange. Yes, duly noted.
That and weird. But it's just, again, you can tell
There's
that.
no doubt about it. By the way,
yeah. But you can tell he's into, like, there is something going on.
There is something going on. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's genuine, and it's kind of like I don't know. I won't say awestruck, but there's just like that moment when you realize that this is happening, and you're in the
Mhm.
moment of it. You're self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gets that. It's really cool.
So I've got one more clip, and then we'll continue with the story. So here's the last one.
244, we're at the far side of the second farmer's field, and made sighting again about 110 degrees. This looks like it's clear out to the coast. It's right on the horizon. Moves about a bit and flashes from time to time. Still steady or red in color. Also, after negative readings in the center of the field, we're picking up slight readings, 4 or 5 clicks now on the meter. 305, we see strange strobe-like flashes to the rather sporadic, but there's definitely something, some kind of phenomenon. 305, at about 10 degrees horizon directly north, we've got 2 strange objects, half-moon shape, dancing about with colored lights on them. But guessed to be about 5 to 10 miles out, maybe less. The half-moons have now turned into full circles. Because I know there was an eclipse or something there for a minute or two. 0315 now, we've got an object about 10 degrees directly south, 10 degrees off the horizon. And the ones to the north are moving, one's moving away from us. Moving out fast.
This one on the right heading away, too.
Yeah, we're both heading north. Hey, here he comes from the south. He's coming toward us now. Now we're observing what appears to be a beam coming down to the ground. This is unreal. 330, 0330, and the objects are still in the sky, although the one to the south looks like it's losing a little bit of altitude. We're turning around and heading back toward the base. The object to the south is still beaming down lights to the ground. 0400 hours, one object still hovering over Woodbridge Base at about 5 to 10 degrees off the horizon, still moving erratic and similar lights and beaming down earlier.
So I don't know, Jamie, what do you think of that evidence?
Wow. Well, I mean, it's clear something's going on there, you know, and I think the movement of this item, this object, whatever it is, or these objects, or more than one. Eventually, there's more than one. You know, it seems to have kept, at least by his description, in the same height, the altitude, you know, at the 5 to 10 degrees off horizon. So that, you know, it's staying at the same level. It's just moving north and south. So you know, that's well, a couple things come to mind. One, the most important one, perhaps, is that it's at a grid pattern. It's searching, you know, and perhaps whatever this beam is that he spoke of is a searchlight or something. So maybe the initial craft, you know, was a crash or a failure of some kind, and it managed to, you know, get enough up to get away from the first wave of folks who found it, and then whatever its parent is looking for it. So I know I'm speculating a lot. Obviously, it wasn't there, but you know, descripting, you know, hearing this really helps paint the picture of what they experienced. You know, just in their words.
Right. So
it's really interesting.
Yeah,
Really,
I mean, I think it's pretty compelling. Now, on top of that, there were multiple witnesses from both RAF bases as well as civilians.
Okay.
These
witnesses. I mean, this is not an unpopulated area.
Right. There's farms. There's like it's woods, but there's farms and things like that. It's obviously more populated now than it was then, but yeah, it's definitely populated then. So these witnesses came forward. They provided testimony. They corroborated each other's stories. So that the memo, the evidence collected from the scene, the tapes, all that. Do you think the British Ministry of Defense took up an investigation?
No, of course not.
Nope.
Nope.
They downplayed the entire incident. They rationalized what happened as a misidentification of bright stars, satellites, or the Orford Ness Lighthouse.
Okay.
Now, one source says that Halt's memo didn't call for or suggest that further action be taken, so no one did. However, As documents have been declassified over the years, it is believed that investigations and other actions took place behind closed doors. Over the past 45 years, at least 2 former defense staffers have stated that things were not handled properly. Lord Hill Norton, a former chief of the defense staff and member of the House of Lords, publicly criticized the military of defense's handling of the Rendlesham incident and called for a more thorough investigation into the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement. Nick Pope, a former Ministry of Defense official tasked with investigating UFO reports, spoke extensively about the Rendlesham incident and advocated for greater transparency regarding government investigations into UFO phenomena. So, even with documents being released and people being interviewed, we are no closer to knowing about the truth than we were in 1980. In June of 2010, Halt wrote, signed, and had notarized an affidavit recounting what he remembered from the event. However, researchers have discounted this affidavit because it contradicts what he wrote at the time of the event and what he recorded during his investigation. It is understandable that after 30 years, his memory may have been different than what he saw initially.
Sure.
So, what are the theories that are out there?
I don't remember what I did 30 minutes ago, Chad. Come on.
I know.
No.
I know. So, what are the theories out there? First and most obviously, the theory is that they experienced an extraterrestrial visitation. This would undoubtedly place the event in the realm of paranormal. Another theory suggests it was some sort of classified military experiment. However, this seems highly unlikely. At the time, the two bases bordering the forest were operated by the U.S. Air Force. So if they would know any testing that they would have done. And this was during the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
The British would not have conducted tests in that area with a U.S. military presence, especially on bases prepared to defend against nuclear aggression. Pretty, why would you mess around there?
Yeah.
Another theory by forest worker Vince Thurkettle has been put out there. He was chopping wood in Rendlesham Forest in late December of 1980 when a car pulled up. 2 men dressed in suits and appearing to be around 30 years old approached him and asked him if they could ask him some questions. He said they asked him about 20 questions, mainly whether he'd been out on the night of December 26th through 28th and if he had seen anything. Assuming they were journalists, he checked newspapers over the next few days expecting to see a story, yet nothing appeared. It wasn't until 3 years later that a front-page article in the News of the World read, UFO lands in Suffolk, and that's official. This article was based on the Halt memo, which had finally been released by the U.S. government. So from this timeline, it seems unlikely that these 2 men were reporters. According to Thurkettle, the UK authorities claimed that they didn't learn about the incident until they received Halt's memo 2 weeks later. So who were the 2 men who spoke with a proper British accent?
You mentioned they were wearing suits.
Uh-huh.
Were they potentially black suits?
I was going to say, did Men in Black come to mind?
Well, I mean, that's been in the back of my mind the whole time. Like, you
Right.
know, and I'm probably jumping ahead here, but stop me if I am.
No, go. Yeah.
But the idea of the I'm not called a cover up, but the non-acknowledgement of the incident.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of takes me to 2 things. One is obviously a cover up. First thing,
Right.
that's the cynic part of it. But also, this is an American controlled base or bases. And, we just came out of the 70s where Project Blue Book was operational and winding down at that point. So, in that being part of the Air Force, that's that standard operating procedure would be to deny and investigate your own. So, and we found that to be true in at least in a lot of the released records from that era. So, I don't see that being unusual, and obviously too, I think this is probably the back end of it. But once the acknowledgement of something extraterrestrial occurs, when and we've come to that point now with what's been released in the last 2 or 3 years via the government here now,
Right.
With like the Tic Tac video and so forth. But that the fear was mass hysteria, or
Right.
a differential in the the populace would occur, and who knows what. But
Right.
It is always deemed to be in our best interest that we don't know,
True.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
whether that's true or not, it's that's the people who we elect to lead have made the decisions there. So
Right.
um, why they've changed that, I don't know. And I'm happy that they finally come, said, hey, look, there is stuff going on. We just don't know what it is.
Right.
And that's honesty is the best policy, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
really what I think. I think we're all mature enough we can handle that.
Right. So let's jump back to Thurkettle. So after his strange visit, he began hearing rumors of the strange craft. Things around town are going to, people are going to talk.
Yeah.
So he was curious and he asked his supervisor in the first forestry department to take him to the site. Expecting to see evidence of a UFO landing, he instead was disappointed. Here's what he had to say. It was nothing. It was an absolutely normal glade in the forest with 3 rabbit scrapes. And they were all carefully marked that happened to be roughly in a triangle, he says. I mean, there was a ring of sticks around it marking it, and I think, fair dues to the Americans, if they'd been out at night and saw a light and came out back in the daytime looking for something, I could totally understand why they said, this must be it. He continued, it was a completely natural glade, and they've said things like, but there were broken branches. Well, the forest is full of broken branches. They saw burn marks in the trees. They said, obviously, that was heat radiating out from the spacecraft, and it burnt these trees. But it wasn't. It was one of the rangers, Bill Briggs, with an axe. Thurkettle also noted that this was the only place in the forest where Orford Ness Lighthouse is visible. It's weird because you've got a slightly sloping patch of Rendlesham Forest, then probably a couple miles, then Gedgrave Hill, and there was a gap in the trees on Gedgrave Hill, then 8 miles or whatever to the Orford Ness Lighthouse. UFO believers have talked to the lighthouse keepers who said it never beamed towards the land, and I think rubbish. I've stood in the beam of the lighthouse, and I've looked at it and the forest. He doesn't discount that something strange may have happened, but he doesn't believe it was a UFO. So, what do we know at this
I'm gonna say this, Chad. I'd like to have a pint with that chap.
point? He sounds like a
He's
a
all right.
yeah. So what do we know? The incident has sparked numerous conspiracy theories, including government cover-ups, advanced technologies, and extraterrestrial contact. It has also led to scientific research. Even today, evidence and testimonies are being re-examined to see if anything new can be uncovered. And of course, there is UFO tourism. The site has become a pilgrimage destination for UFO enthusiasts, featuring a dedicated UFO trail through the forest and a full-size sculpture representing what some believe was seen that night. Something happened in those woods in 1980. Will we ever know exactly what it was? Probably not. This is one of those stories that deserves continued investigation, ensuring due diligence and research and transparency. It was much easier in 1980 to sweep something under the rug than it is today.
Yep.
If this had happened today, there would be countless phone pictures, videos, and social media posts documenting every detail. So does that mean we're no longer being visited? Or are we being visited and simply unaware because whatever or whoever is visiting us is more sophisticated than we are? That's hard to say. I have my ideas, Jamie, but that's a story for another night. So while you mull this over and get your thoughts together, I'm going to cite some of my sources. www.onthisday.com, UFO Pensacola Beach, Rendlesham Forest Incident, Dr. David Clark.blogspot.com, Vocal Media History, the Rendlesham Forest Incident, BBC.com News, the UFO Database, and one that's really great is the ianridpath.com. He's got a whole website dedicated to this. So definitely worth checking some of those out if you're interested. So that's my story. What do you think?
Well, just to follow on the last part of that, with has anything happened? Well, actually, it was a question here too. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's from Heather. So Heather's asked, has anything ever been seen since the incident? And I, I have a thought, and it's kind of silly. Maybe I mean this to be lighthearted, but what we were doing in 1980 and even early 1981 is not what we're doing now.
Right.
We would go outside to look up. Now we're going outside to look down at the screen. We're just getting away from the people in the house
Right.
to do it. So, the world has changed. And if we're not seeing as many things, it's simply because we're not looking up as much as we used to.
True.
And that's a sad thing to come to. That's a sad, statement to make, because that's the world we are now in. But,
Right.
I will tell you this: I walk my dog every night, and this time of year it's certainly dark, and most, even in the summer it's later in the evening, it's getting toward twilight, and
Mm-hmm.
I walk around looking up more than I do down sometimes, to make sure where we're going. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just that's me and my age, and I'm of
Right.
this generation where I was alive during this incident, so I'm
Right.
older, as you pointed out earlier. Thank you again. But it's just we don't do this stuff anymore,
Right.
and
I
or at
mean,
least not in the masses that we used to before.
right. And I do the same thing when I go, I take the dog for a walk. I do go and I look at the stars, and the
Yeah.
nights that it's clear, it is just like I want to disappear into it,
Sure.
And we don't have nice clear skies like I'm sure they do in this area.
Sure.
So,
We've
have things been
talked about
seen?
that before too. Like,
Right.
here in the east coast of the U.S., we're densely populated, so we
Mm-hmm.
have a ton of night sky pollution with all of
Mm-hmm.
our lights, and
Correct.
you really have to get to the Midwest and the Southwest and Northwest even, here to get to places where all of a sudden you realize how many stars there really are. We
Yep.
see a lot, but and I've lived in the Southwest, and I've told you this already here, on a previous episode. The sky is just radiant and
Right.
amazing, and you just can't see it when there's so many lights on. You're absolutely right. Being there then, there's just open space because of the Air Force bases alone and the
Mm-hmm.
forestry and so forth. So I'm sure there was a much clearer sky, and that gives the opportunity to see this kind of stuff. Obviously
Right.
this is ground level to begin with, but the recordings, are clearly seeing something moving through the sky that you might have lost otherwise.
Right.
And I'm
Um,
wondering, I wonder
I,
one thing too, and this wasn't noted per se. Maybe I missed it early on if you did, but we're talking about, at one point there was something on radar that it was low, and
right.
then this led the team to go back out to the wood, or go out to the woods in the first place. But the incident, as it's being reported, of seeing a 5 to 10 degree off horizon north south movement, is that on radar anywhere? Like, is there any validation from equipment
I
other
don't
than
I
eyesight?
don't know that there is. And one of the references I saw questioned radar readings because the radar that was being used at these bases was looking for ICBMs coming over the horizon.
Sure.
So they weren't looking near the bases; they were looking further out.
Okay.
So it's hard to say. And to answer Heather's question about whether things are still being seen, there were things that were inferred that there may be activities still happening here, but nothing has been specifically said that this was cited then, or you know. So again, I don't have a good answer to that one, but there were definitely inferences to this area still as having things happen.
Yeah.
So
And who knows? That this is the kind of the deal with rural spaces in the world. That's where things could be happening because there aren't us there.
right,
And the Southwest and the West here in the U.S. the same story. Like, we come across cattle mutilations and things like that, like things that don't make sense that a predator would do. So
right,
it's believed that it has to be an alien, and it's in acres and acres and acres of ranch land there where there's nobody.
right.
So, it would be a plausible thing if you want to come and go and not be seen. That's where you go to.
Hmm.
And this part of the UK, at least at the time, fit the bill. It might still, for that matter. I'm not sure, but
Right,
it seems like we've all expanded.
right,
So it maybe not so much anymore. But if it was a place that well, I'll call them people, but something came to that place, then
right.
it's a known location. Why not come back to it, at least to start with? I can see that.
So
It's like
what?
your favorite vacation spot, right? You keep going back to it. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't see the word road trip, but this, we could hit two here, like within a couple hours of each other. So
it's true. It's
um,
true.
Suffolk County is fairly big from what I'm gathering now, but we'll see. one thing that I found interesting is with Roswell that we discovered some sort of body. It's believed we discovered some sort of
Here's the call for the road stargazing road trip from
Yep.
Bert. So thanks, Bert.
Roswell we found a being of some sort, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Well, that's the story, at least. Yes.
Here there was not. We don't even have a ship that.
Right. Well, there's actually allegedly, and we'll keep saying allegedly throughout all this, I guess, but allegedly there's a craft and a body found at Roswell.
Right. But in this one, the guy did touch he physically touched whatever it was. So that just,
Chet, I'm going to ask you this, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
If you came out into the woods, in the middle of the night, you came across a flying saucer, for lack of a better way of calling it, would you touch it?
Probably. I'm that guy.
I would too.
I mean, we know if David was there, he would touch it. If
He'd
not,
climb in.
I was gonna say he would try to climb in. But yeah, I think I would, because I just would want validation that it's actually there and not an hallucination.
There's two kinds of people in the world, right? There's the oh yeah, and there's the oh no.
Yeah, Frankie.
Frankie's vote is counted. Touch it with exclamation points and capitals. So, absolutely.
So yeah, I would say yes. So and Bert too.
Bert as well. Yep, I would too.
So all right, Jamie. So we know you would touch it, but what do you think? Did this paranormal?
I just realized something. And I guess you alluded to this last week, that this was not a normal paranormal thing for us, and that's kind of been the focus of the show all along,
right.
What we're up to. And if I'm not mistaken, this is our first episode on UFOs or UFO encounters.
Right.
So, and I've kind of shied away just because I don't know that it would be a paranormal or not episode. And I'm going to be clear and be honest, in November, I think it is, really close to November anyway, we're going to do an episode on Travis Walton, who is more famously known for the Fire in the Sky and an alien abduction in Arizona back in 1974. This is 1975. This is the 50th anniversary. It's right at that point of his abduction. And he's still with us. He's still alive. So I did it on purpose around that anniversary to get on our schedule that far out. But I've kind of been a little leery because I don't know that we can say paranormal or not. I think we can say it's definitely a situation. Like something happened here.
But it's not normal.
Well, it's not, and therefore it has to be. I know. That's our definition. So yes,
I think we can classify it as paranormal.
I'll lean into that too. I do, and I think there's enough, at least if not factual evidence, compelling evidence from the recording alone and the other documentation, to say that the people who investigated the site and the aftermath of that evening and through the next 2 weeks, likely, while the investigation was open, they found stuff that was enough to say something was going on there.
Right. And this team was a military police investigation team. Yeah. Like this
is
what they did.
I gleaned that right away. Like they were talking in terms of, they were talking in the sense of like the scientific method of investigating it. They weren't just going out in the woods and look at that. They were documenting what they saw. They were accounting for it. There was intent and purpose for their work. Right. And they had equipment, that would help validate them.
Right.
I think it's fantastic.
They may not have had a guy to run the equipment. In the woods. Right. Yeah. They may not have had a guy who knew how to run the equipment, but they had the equipment.
Well, we know people don't know how to run equipment too, so go figure, right?
True. So,
but the fact that they had it and they were doing their best effort to intentionally use it and document what they were finding with it. That part is that's real to me. It wasn't. Yeah. It's not an anecdotal story at this point because of that.
Right.
And otherwise, it would be if it was you and I walking in the woods one night. And by the way, did I hear correctly? There was a guy out chopping wood in the night.
No. He was chopping wood during the next day, like a couple days later.
And the people in suits showed up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The reason I say that, I asked that, is there is when we went back to oh my gosh, Hoyabakiu Forest, another forest episode, right, or incident. There was tales of a gentleman who saw something one night because it was like 3 a.m. and he was out chopping wood. And I'm like, dude, that's not the kind of wood you're supposed to be sawing, to go to sleep. So, Why you were out there at 3 a.m. somewhere in the woods, cutting down lumber, I have no idea.
Hey,
So I just thought maybe that's a thing in Europe. I don't know.
no. So,
All right.
but anyway, um, so yeah, I would tend to agree. I think there's this was something happened here, and I believe that, you know, and I like your interpretation of it, that you know, when towards the middle of the episode there, where something was lost and then there was something looking for it. That's you know, I hadn't gone down that route, but it makes sense to me now that you said that. So
Either that or they were beaming up cows. I don't know. Go figure. Whatever.
maybe. So,
Whatever they were doing, it was something.
uh-huh. So, but yeah, so I actually, this was fun to investigate. There's a lot of information out there, and I just I'm sure I just scratched the surface. I mean, it's 40 years ago, and like I
Yeah.
said, people have been investigating and following up on it, and keeping going with it ever since. So,
That's kind of the thing, and that is what puts it to the paranormal.
hmm
We have a lot of stuff around us, and history of it.
hmm
And I think you highlighted, on social media posts, like, we're not investigating ghosts, we're investigating history, or something to that effect, of someone
right.
else's comment.
hmm
And that is exactly it. This is history, and there's a part of it that needs to be preserved, and respected, and I think that's what we try to do in the field. I hope we're all trying to do that, but we're also trying to understand and interpret it. And because there are many ways to interpret this episode, or this instance, then that means it will probably will never stop,
Right.
until something is found. And I'm going to go X-Files here, but the truth is out there.
Right. I
And
wanted to throw that in here so bad, but I didn't.
well, it's always the point, right? I
Right.
mean, the truth, there is truth in all of this, and whether or not anything's been redacted, or covered up, or whatnot, I think, we are, through the course of time, finding things become available to us. And it's just a matter of digging deep enough,
Right.
and I know you mentioned 30 years, of a remembrance. The story changed, and that is true, because now
hmm
it's a memory of a memory of a memory, all
Right.
this time ago. But going back to the original documentation, I mean, that was in the moment. That's the realest it can get, and that's
Right.
really where I think we need to look. And I don't trust my memory of 30. Something happened 30 years ago. I can tell you that. Again,
Right.
30 minutes ago is a different story too. But so I don't think stuff like this ever should go away.
Right.
All right. Well, yeah, Bird has a comment, but did anyone build a mashed potato mountain? I believe that's a third, Close Encounters of a Third Kind reference, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Devil's Tower.
Okay.
I'm going to step back to, we're talking about whether you're going to touch it or not. Frankie commented, maybe it's like looking at a 9-volt battery. It's a shocking experience.
Uh-huh.
Who hasn't done that?
So
All
yeah,
right.
like I said, this was a lot of fun. Probably could have gone 2 hours with the information that's out there easily, but I didn't want to do that to everybody because there's a lot going on. So
Well, it's not to say that we couldn't come back at some point should more information or something change to the
right.
dynamic of this situation. Or if there's someone out there in the world who's listening and has some more information, or knows a part of the story that we perhaps didn't share, feel free to let us know. Drop us a line. We'll follow up, and that's the coolness of being connected to the world that we are now as well.
Yep.
This was an incident in England, in the UK back in the day, that probably didn't get a whole lot of press elsewise in the world, until more digital media started becoming prevalent. But
hmm
this is pre-internet, so it wasn't blowing up unless it was on the front page of a paper that someone happened to see. And I know it took 3 years for it to make the paper. So
Yep.
you know,
Exactly.
that's another surprise for how long this has lasted, because it really could have just slid away, not necessarily been covered up, it just slipped away,
Right.
out of sight, out of mind.
hmm You're exactly right. So So what do you think, Jamie? Move on, or you have any more thoughts on this?
I have one more comment here from Heather to share. It says, when it comes to paranormal investigating for spirits, I can't get enough of it. But for some reason, when it comes to UFOs, it's like I just don't want to know. I'm not afraid of ghosts, but aliens freak me out.
Hmm.
Have you seen E.T., Heather, by chance? Okay.
So
We have a mutual friend, Chad, who's very freaked out by ET.
yes, we do. So.
And it's always great to find those gifts that are related to ET for birthdays and Christmas gifts. So,
and the birthday's coming up, Jamie. So
it is coming up. It is
so
very, very soon.
so since we've touched on this a little bit, right around the end of the last year, beginning of this year, there was a lot of talk in some circles of people who communicate with extraterrestrials, if you believe this,
Sure.
that that extraterrestrials are here and they've been waiting for the right time to reveal themselves, and that time is coming close, and that and not everybody will be able to see them. It depends what it depends on a lot of things. Some people will see, it's just like spirits, some people will see them, some people won't.
Okay.
But Pensacola is where supposedly may happen first, because I don't, again, it's if you believe it or not, if you believe that people communicate with them. It's some things I've followed for a little while. It's sort of interesting. I don't know that I put much weight into it, but it's sort of interesting. So we'll see.
Sure.
So, I mean, I hope I'm one of the people who can see them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So a couple of things come to mind. Like the one thing, and this is fiction, pure fiction, what I'm about to say. But I remember watching the movie Signs many, many, many years ago. And it was, it's a suspenseful film, and it's based around aliens, or at least the prevalence of a belief that aliens have come to Earth. And, there's so much mystery around what's really going on. But at one point, there's a scene where a family is in their house looking out the window, and an alien just casually walks down the street in a quick view between like two hedges,
Right.
And honestly, I went, whoa, that was weird.
Right.
But, my thought is, well, I remember thinking this clearly, that's going to happen someday.
Right.
It's probably going to happen anyway,
Mm-hmm.
And in another, distraction of that, into the fantasy world. But, if I'm not mistaken, the date in Star Trek lore where we make first contact has come and gone, or at least it's very close if it hasn't.
Okay.
And someone's going to correct me, and I'm good for that. We're in that window. So,
Right.
hey, why not? Let's have it happen.
Yeah.
I don't disbelieve that they've made contact, or they're here even. I don't,
Right.
And it's the world, the galaxy, and this, all of space is too big for us to be the only ones. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And as we are able to get out and we're sending craft around, and we have things passing out of our galaxy now. Voyager is leaving, I believe, if not have left already. It's now in places that we can't even see it anymore. It's so far away.
Right.
It's still sending signals, so we know it's working. But, if we can do this, why can't someone else or something else do it too?
Right. Exactly. So only time will tell, because, the truth is out there, Jamie.
It's out there.
So.
All right. Well, yeah, a great topic. Thanks so much. I knew nothing of it going into it, and now I feel like I know everything. So you did a fantastic job.
Well, there are movies about there are definitely movies, things like that. I didn't even touch on that. There's definitely movies and stuff like that. So.
All right. Well, Heather, first of all, commenting that the first movie she saw in the movie theater was E.T. So yeah, I can understand being a little freaked out there. And then talking about Signs, that movie freaked me out. Signs is how I fear it all happening. I'm going to fill up cups of water and keep them around my bed tonight. Don't forget to make a tinfoil hat as well while you're at it, and you'll be fine.
So, all right. Well, let's transition into what's coming up. Oh, well, that's the
Yeah.
wrong
Well,
slide.
that is the wrong side. See, you did it to me again.
Here we go.
Ooh.
Sorry.
All right. Well, next week we are going to talk about. Next week, first of all, is March 4th, which is Mardi Gras, or Fat Tuesday, as you wish to call it. So we're going to talk about New Orleans, which is allegedly America's most haunted city. I'd love to have a competition to see which one really is. Like if there's some
Hmm.
criteria we could put together, that would be fantastic. That's a competition reality show I'd like to see
Right.
versus all the other stuff. So, and as we've been joking all along, coming up on March 11th, Chad's going to jump into Leap Castle, which is
Yeah.
Ireland's most haunted castle. Uh, I'm not going to let that one go. I'm going to keep doing it.
Okay.
Uh, After that, on the 18th, I'm going to tackle the subject of Tommy knockers. And then March 25th, Chad is going to take on the Dybbuk box.
Yep.
April 1st, April Fool's Day, I'm going to tackle paranormal hoaxes in the world. And this one's the first one to make it onto our schedule for you guys to see. But on April 8th, we were going to take the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum history in advance of our visit there on April 10th. So we're going to hit the road. We're going to finish the podcast, pack up, and get ready to go. And then come back. And I think the following week on the 14th or whatever it is, 15th, we'll do a quick review of what we encountered there. So.
Yep. Would you say that's a road trip, Jamie?
It is a road trip, sir.
It is.
And it's a road trip with some of my favorite people. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yep.
It is so close you can taste it at this point. So, yes, we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I talked earlier about us having a home base at Booby's Brewery in Mountjoy, Pennsylvania, here in the U.S. There are options to do paranormal investigations with us, our team at Jotnick's Paranormal. Our next event is going to be on March 22nd. That's a public event. I mentioned April 10th. We're heading out to Tala, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Then we'll be back for regular shows on April 26th. And on May 17th, we have a special event. We're going to do a Para-Unity event with a team of Land and Legend Paranormal, friends of ours, and just good people. Get out there and we'll get to share. Stacy is a medium, very well known, very well respected in the field, and we're looking forward to working with her. I know her by reputation, but not by encounter.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything is true, even half of what I hear is true, it's going to be a great night.
I've met her a couple of times. She's a wonderful woman to talk to, and
So
I haven't met her husband, but I'm or I haven't talked to her husband. I'm looking forward to that,
yes.
which we're going to get to do here before we see her.
Yes, because we'll have some time here as well, right? We'll get to do a little investigation conversation, so it's going to be great. Tickets are available for these events and other ones in the future. There's a full year's worth of events on the boobiesbrewery.com/entertainment page, and that takes you right over to their Saver Stub site, so you can get those tickets in advance.
Right.
Do not wait; they go quickly.
Heather's hoping that we'll see Ghost at Tala, but no aliens. But we can't make any promises.
No promises there. But you're maybe both.
Yeah, you never know.
That's not wrong, right? We'll take that. All right, and then here's another tab for the Para-Unity event coming up with Stacy and Gary from Land and Legend. Again, that's coming up on May 17th. Get your tickets now. All right, and then you can, if you don't want to do a personal. My gosh, you think I can read a public investigation? See, here's the thing. I can remember what I did 30 minutes ago. I can't remember what I said 30 seconds ago. Holy cow! Gosh. So if you don't want to do a public investigation, you can book private investigations for yourself or your team if you're part of one at the brewery instead. And it's a very easy process. Just reach out to Melissa Keller, our team founder, at mkeller, that's MKELLER 0606 @gmail.com. And she will give you available dates and rates and all the fun stuff. And, there is an opportunity we talk about all the time to stay literally right inside the building. The third floor of the brewery building is a hotel. And there is also a Airbnb right across the street, all owned by the brewery. And Chad, why would you do that?
Because Mountjoy is more fun when you sleep over.
Yes, it is. Very good. I saw you look at your note there on that one, by the way.
I cheated, but that's,
I don't blame you. It's okay. You got it. You nailed it.
Uh-huh.
All right. And then, of course, you found us here on Facebook tonight in this live podcast or on our YouTube channel. But other information for us, we for Jotnix is finding us on Facebook. We have a TikTok. It's jotnix.paranorma, no L, and Instagram at jotnix/or_paranormal, and YouTube at jotnix paranormal as well. And some new things. There is now a Facebook page just for Paranormal Lens. And of course, we have an email that you can reach out to us for commentary about episodes or anything you might want to see us cover.
Right.
We self-produce. If it's not obvious by now, we self-produce. So with that, we can move things around on our schedule that we shared earlier. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, a little bit of time to do some research on it and get the facts about it. But we can bump stuff any way we need to move it up or down, whatnot. So happy to. You might even be a guest if it's your topic. So happy to bring you on.
And Jamie, I'm thinking with the Facebook page, it may be a place for us to use as a repository for some of our images and some of our things that people who are looking at listening to the audio podcast, but aren't able to see some of the stuff that we show. It may be a good place to put that stuff.
Absolutely, that is exactly a great point for it, and no better use. That and social media. So another way to connect, of course, too. Okay. If you didn't catch us here live, you can catch us on Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts, and probably a few others, all the cool things out there in the world. And if you're finding us there, feel free to drop a comment or some stars, give us a rating. We love feedback. We like to hear that we're doing great or we suck. Either way, it's your opinion. I certainly will trust it. We like to think we've earned some stars and love that, but whatever you feel.
And you can also give us stars and reviews. There's a place to leave reviews on the Facebook page.
On the Facebook.
So happy to have them anywhere you can get them.
Yeah, just reach out.
And we just want to use it to make ourselves better because we want to give you what you're looking for. And if we're not doing that, let us know so we can connect and make it what you want it to be. So
absolutely. We're here. We're all friends here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir. I think I covered it. I did anyway.
I think that's it.
All right. So again, great topic. Great work through this. Thanks for, and the audio was fantastic. Thanks for cleaning it up as well. I'm sure a recorder from 1980 is not the quality we would expect to get from one today.
It was definitely interesting because there were places where you could tell he had used the recorder for something else. Because there was a point where the audio from this dropped out, and his daughter was playing piano in the back, like it just hadn't recorded there. It was great. So
this is the era of recording over VHS tapes too.
Yep, exactly.
Right? So you had something you thought you recorded your episode of Magnum PI perhaps back then.
Uh-huh.
And then you found out that something else was recorded over it, or at least part of it, and you're like, dang it. So
Yep. And different speeds. You had you recorded your first one in the 2-hour mode, and then your next one was in 6-hour mode.
Man, those were the days.
Uh-huh.
How we ever made it through.
So.
Well, I was thinking too that this might have been a tape recorder as well. So that's one of the things from the era as well that strikes me like, oh gosh, because we still use those 10 or 15 years ago, even before true digital. So oh my, times have changed. All for the better.
So
and here we are doing this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So well, that's all I got, Jamie. So I think as always, thank you everybody for hanging out with us for an hour. We appreciate it. It really means a lot to us that you spend the time with us, and we look forward to this every week. I know I do. So
absolutely. We appreciate everybody. And thanks again. We'll see you next week for conversation around New Orleans, America's most haunted city.
All right. Sounds good. Good night, everybody.
Good night.